Hi Laurenzo. So just for the start, I think what we will try as you start copywriting for us is that you might want to just look at high number push notifications with high number of sends, look into those and try as an experiment to replace the copy with something way more interesting. So this is how it goes. You have a video waiting for you, click to export. So this has been working pretty well for us in terms of engagement level. However, I think that the copy leaves much to be desired. It's something that I wrote a really long time ago. And in fact, if you actually look at the app, it's not even a tick anymore. It's replaced with a downward button. So these are the things that we should try to rewrite. If you're very confused with navigating Lean Plum, so there's a lot of steps to this. Like as we get deeper into this, you can start sorting through messages by yourself, and you can start being more independent in finding what type of copy to write, suggesting copies to write, as well as looking into some of the engagement levels and then deciding which copies to replace. But for now, I think this is too much for you. I think what we will do is that we will sort through the messages. What I'd like Shireen to do is that I'll give her a list of rules to follow. So like she'll sort by engagement. So Shireen, this part's for you. Sort by level of sense, sorry, not engagement, okay? So in fact, sense with low engagement is probably one of the things that we want to work on. So engagement rate, in case you don't know, is you consider it as the push open. So out of the percentage sense, what's the push open rate? And please take note that this is a different type of message altogether. So the one that we're looking at, that copywriting is the most important, I would say, would be stuff that is push notification here. And the levels tend to be a lot lower for these things. The reason is because in something like a confirm dialog, which means when you launch apps, a dialog message pops up. It blocks the user, so obviously the push is a lot higher, but the click-through is a lot higher for those, because there's no way you can get out of it unless you either say yes or no. So these are the yes rates, but it's going to be a lot higher than push notifications that I just sent out. So you can also sort it by engagement rate, but I don't really want to focus on that, because a lot of times stuff that has bad engagement rate might also mean that the push idea is not working, right? If I say make a low motive for your granddad, maybe people just don't care about their granddads, so that could lead to a lower engagement rate. It doesn't matter how nice your copy for granddads are. So I think the best indicator right now will be sense. Note that these green buttons mean that they are active. These means that they are life cycle campaigns. So there are two types of pushes. One is a push that just goes out, like what you would think pushes would be. They are scheduled pushes, right? It's a mid-autumn festival today. We'll say like, oh, these are the moon theme songs for the occasion, right? And these are scheduled pushes. We go to calendar here and then we put them down. They go out once and that's it. What's especially interesting for us would be triggered messages. The reason for this is because it's scalable. We don't have to keep writing copies for it, and it actually goes out to way more users in the long term. So if we fix those, and also because we've been honing it for the past year, right? They tend to be a lot more engaging than those one-off campaigns. So if the Mid-Autumn Festival works fabulously, it's just going to work for one day. But if we nail something that like we can send out every week, or we can send out every time they do something or forgot to do something, that would be really, really helpful for us. So these are triggered messages. So you can see the delivery here as a triggered thing. Triggered means that when someone does an event, so let's say they export a video and then they stop exporting, like we actually trigger the event called export, and then we wait for them to do something else. So they enter a funnel when they click export, right? And exit a funnel when, let's say, okay, just simplistically, right, even though we don't care about this, if they export a video and they don't share, so we're listening for two events. Export will bring them into the funnel, which we're like watching in this group, right? And we're waiting for, like, let's say 2 days, and if they did not share the video, we can send them a push. So yeah, that's the idea behind it. Some of the triggers, so if you look everywhere in the app, we have more or less created trigger for the most important events. So let's just assume that we have the events there to trigger, if you're actually planning on kind of like designing campaigns around this. So if someone like starts a new project, that means they created their video, they're watching the preview and then they quit the app, right? There could be several reasons for it. They could have not been inspired by the video because they've gotten to do a lot of stuff. They might not know how to pen like some of the interesting features that we have. So what we typically do is to listen for the new project event, we bring them all into the funnel, and then we wait for the event export. To us, like in a way, this is a convert for them, right? Like they actually see the value of Lomotive is when they export it to their camera roll. So we listen to their event, and if they did not export it, then we might send, so this is a bunch here, we might send a reminder. So I would test this out. So I tried 1 hour after the export video prompt. What happened is that, if I'm not wrong, right, I can't really remember the analytics right now, and okay, but I think it led to a very, very high level of engagement, which means a lot of people clicked it. However, it was just kind of naggy, and in the long term, it did not provide much benefit. So what we like to do is to remind them 1 day after right now. So if you see here, it's inactive. It's probably because I looked into analytics and decided that this did not work and canned it. But here is a lifecycle campaign. So they enter the funnel, 1 hour later they receive this thing. Maybe let's say, did they indicate here? No, they don't indicate here. But this is how it works, right? Like there's actually like maybe 1 day later, 7 days later they have this, 14 days later they have this, and 30 days later they have this. And how you can see it is you click open here. Let's hope yes. So you see 1 day optimal time, they receive this message. So I'm going to screenshot, or rather like using my rules to come up with all these. Shing will actually screenshot some of these messages for you, and I'll take a look at the chat to see. She's going to identify which are the biggest room for improvement. So for startups, we just say what's the biggest reach, right? Because that's easy, and we'll try to test new copies for these. So as homework, you can actually just start writing simply these copies. And to help you, I'm not too sure. Okay, I would recommend that to help you, right, you actually take a look at the push opens that each copy receives. However, this is a little bit misleading because a lot of times the push notification opens is highly correlated to how long it's been since they started using the app, which means that if it was like 5 minutes ago, the push open is going to be very, very high because they're still engaged. But that's not an indication that your push was awesome. So a lot of times it's more that than the push quality. So if you want to challenge yourself, you're looking at users who have not opened the app for 30 days, you're getting a very, very low engagement rate. If you can lift that, it's almost certainly true that you have a better copy. Yes, okay, let me think. FAQ triggers. So next up, we have a bunch of FAQ triggers, which means that I'm trying to get people who did not do something, like did not export, and try to figure out why they didn't export it, and try to prompt them, oh wait, I have okay, so I've paused a bunch here, which probably means that it did not work. So the only survivor is 1 reminder, because I had a bunch going out saying that, oh, deep link to, so idea of deep link. The deep link is something that when you open up, so you see read FAQs here, right? We've designed this such that when you press this button, whoops, let me see. When you press this read FAQs button, it goes straight into onboarding screens. So these are deep links. Actually, the most important deep link that we have is performing music search, which would look something like this. Let me just pull out. Lomotive music Drake hotline. Okay, basically when you add that into this deep link column, Shane can help you do that, but like when you add this deep link column, it pulls out it performs a search for Lomotive music and then these search terms, Drake space hotline. So obviously there's no spaces in deep link, so we just have a plus here. So you can kind of get creative with that. You know that, okay, so just a couple of tips. Most people, currently I've tried different methods, most people come back to Lomotive for the music. If you can kind of give them a reason to suggest a great song, one good example would be, and you need to be pretty familiar with demographics to know this, but most people use our Lomotive app for selfie videos, and a lot of them is for this on Wednesday, a lot of teens send a bunch of videos out that are like WCE or Women Crush Wednesday or Women Crush Every Day, and it's just about them, their cutest Snapchat selfie videos with music, and it's just very fast paced and stuff like that. But what they really like about that is if they have a cool new song behind it, and usually those songs are, if you actually go to our Instagram and watch some of these videos, and please do, those songs are just a lot of rap songs, a lot of hip hop songs, and there are a lot of lyrics that have something about women being hot or something like that, like women being attractive. So if we can actually find these songs, and that goes a step further, because we actually have analytics look at what songs people are using, what songs are trending, and then we actually run a bit of an analysis behind those songs to find out like what themes those are. Is it for couples? Is it for WCE kind of thing? And then for those WCE songs, for example, we can actually pull out the lyrics saying that, oh goodness, where is those? Something like, we use the lyrics and then tell them in short to make a WCE video out of it, and those tend to perform pretty well. So currently, if there is an event of any sort, the easiest thing to do would be to call them back, because a certain type of song would be suitable for that occasion. So another example would be when the UK's hottest day of the year, it was trending on the news, right? So everyone in UK was talking about it, and then we came out with like a bunch of hot songs for the occasion. So we're probably going to do that quite a bit. And then another thing is that if you pull out a song, so you can also, especially when you're doing the copywriting, it's very, very much linked to the song. So I can't really separate it into two things. Tell Shiying to come up with the push, and then Shiying to come up with the songs for that push. Because sometimes you want to use some of the song lyrics in it, so you might actually have to do some part of the research behind it, and then you tell us what songs you need or whether or not like this push is meant to be a genre kind of thing. Would be actually kind of helpful. For starters, we can do it for you. Another thing is, instead of having just one song being searched for, like the hottest day of the year, right? Like we can actually deep link to a genre, and genres are basically like little playlist buttons. If you go to our music feature of the app, there are these circular things. It's actually just a manual creation of songs that Shiying and the interns actually put up. So we can be creative and come up with new themes for those, and then deep link it in this way. Okay, so the message structure now. First is the key part is the message here, which both iOS and Android have. You need to be careful because there's this thing called subtitles that is only available right now in iOS. This means that we need to transform our messages when we port it over from iOS to Android. Oh goodness, so much now. Okay, so this is the iOS platform. Let me try to see whether there is an example, okay, let me just create a message, that'll be a lot easier. So there is also an image portion. I have not seen it to be particularly interesting or useful, but currently I just update album art if there are new songs. So okay, different types of messages. The ones that you'll be doing most is push notification to confirm, which means when they push open, you need to know that there will be a confirm dialog here. So in your Google Docs Google Sheets, what I will have is a confirm message as well. That's actually, to be honest, if you are going to spend time thinking of creative copies, focus your attention on the push notification and not the confirm dialog, because like the funnel will die here. Like there's only like 1 or 2% that will see this confirm dialog. But of course, if everything's creative, all the better, right? Okay, so be really colorful here. Emojis and whatnot, like shorter messages work. Remember, use their lingo. You might also want to suggest an image, especially, but do note that not everyone receives an image on their device. So like it should try to work without images, and also when you port it over, there's a problem. Show all. There is the title and subtitle. So let me show you how it looks. Title, sub. Okay, never mind. Sub. It just appears as these like text above. Whoops. Oh, it's not working. Oh no. Goodness. Okay. We have to use our imaginations here. It does not appear, but like hopefully you have it on your phone. title appears here and the subtitle appears below, both in bold. So we can kind of create stuff like that. If you do not have this portal, you may not be able to see how your messages look, which is a bit important as well, because of course there's a bit of a limit here and you don't want to be too chunky with the titles and subtitles. For the starters, just be more creative to push copy. I think we can do a lot of that already. And also because on Android, there are no subtitles and titles. So if you have this like WCE songs here, and then like maybe in the copy it's just lyrics, you need to convert it when you go to an Android platform. That means you might need to have so iOS options, right? This just does not exist, which means that if your story starts from here, you say something a bit here, and this is actually important for the context for the push, you need to bring this down somehow. Currently we're just being like, I tend to write for iOS, and when we push it to Android, either this copy is completely irrelevant or we just stuff it in front of it. But of course we can start designing messages for both iOS and Android a lot more creatively in the future. Targets, okay, this is also fairly important just to get an understanding of it. What we tend to do, okay, I might say time of first run or new users in the past 1 week, right? This is because we can actually tell first time users time of first run. Okay, time of first run tells us how long they've been in the app. So obviously we have millions and millions of users before, and we don't want to send pushes to everyone all the time. There's a lot of times that there's a type of message that works. For example, on the first Saturday of each week, we actually send a push copy to tell them that new songs are in the app and to check it out. Okay, another thing to note, right, is currently music is completely broken in our app. A lot of the new songs can't be found, so that's just something to keep in mind. So, but anyway, the push notification right now, we link it to an album called New. So that used to work for us. In any case, first-time users, they get to know that they should check out the apps for new songs that are coming in all the time, and that works like for the first time. But we don't want this new message to be going out every single week to all our entire user base. That could be quite annoying, right? So the idea behind this is that if you use app for the first time, you only receive it on week 1, on the first Saturday, and you get the idea already that you know new songs are coming in every week. So this is how I use time of first since 1 week ago. So this is how you can actually think about messages as well, like where they are, which stage in the life cycle they are. Okay, so, and then of course there's typical, you should be quite familiar with this, localization, sort of demographical targeting. So obviously whether it's US, whether it's India, and then what languages they speak, which is mostly English. Again, we can consider in future, and there are some things that we do. Okay, so we mostly do our research on English and US speakers especially, and when things work for US speakers, we consider localizing it for other languages. But let me and Shirin worry about that part. Okay, so after they open it, so let's say you say awesome WCE songs, right? Or maybe you have just a teaser that Nicki Minaj this Nicki Minaj song will be perfect for WCE or something like that. And then when you open it, you can have more context to it, which is like Nicki Minaj song title, whatever, is here and blah 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 about that song. And yes, and when they say no, it basically dismisses it. When they say yes, it deep links into something. Yep, so I will just have you write some of this confirm dialog as well. Add holdback. Okay, so add holdback, it basically means that people who don't receive the message, when we add a holdback, we are preventing a bunch of people, like 10% or 5% of users, whatever it is that we specify, to not receive the message. And this allows us to get a better understanding of how the messages help or don't help our users stay engaged. So, for example, if and I've done this before, I'm ashamed to say, if I made a huge typo here and I send a test message out to like a bunch of users, what I will see when I add a holdback is that this message have negatively impacted our users, and people are less likely to come back as a result of this lousy message. So yes, just know that we are always looking at this. Delivery type, okay. Triggered, lifecycle, campaigns, confirm. Let me see what else we have. Okay, so for send, Okay, social prompts. Okay, in future we're also going to look at app inbox. App inbox is, okay, if you go to a Lomotive, there is this bell button in the app, and if you hit that bell button, you will have this app inbox. Right now we want to make sure that all push notifications in future will have an app inbox message as well, and that design also might require a sort of a different approach to it, because obviously it's not going to be a teaser message. It's going to be something a lot more direct. We don't want to tease them into performing the action they don't want to, because you're not trying to capture them into the app anymore. They're already in the app, so it tends to be more straightforward. We have this follow our Facebook, but that's not the main thing. We are probably looking more at, for example, if you send them search songs, discover more songs using search, right? You have this bunch of emojis. When you go into app inbox, it might be just like find out how to use search or something like that. Currently, app inbox, we tend to also be a bit more spammy in that, how do I explain this? We try to be more selective with push notifications. Some of the push that don't function so well. For example, Mid-Autumn Festival, honestly, it might not. Maybe not very many, like even we target China or whatever Chinese demographics, right? And Vietnam. But they might not be very interested in moon themed songs. It's just not what they do. They don't make videos from that. So, however, when we dump in app inbox, we can really raise the engagement, simply because when people hit app inbox, they want to find reasons to create. So the general principle is this: we send push to more selected and targeted audiences. We send app inbox to a wider bunch. Since they're inside the app already, they might as well just find out that it's Beyonce's birthday and they can use their songs if they want to. But we do not want to send Beyonce's birthday to like the entire pop world, right? And in app inbox, currently we have to manually delete it. Okay, you don't really have to know this, but just know that like when it goes out, it's kind of stuck in their box until we manually delete it from here. So you might want to have that in mind as well. You cannot, for example, have an app inbox. Okay, so how useful is this information? Like, for example, if you export video prompt while on editor, right, you have several messages going out telling you the same thing. If they did not export, we will tell them something else. Don't forget to save your video. You don't need to have all these in the inbox, however, because it just reminds them how spammy you are. So maybe you just have an export video prompt saying like, hey guys, export your video, right? First time. Second day, hey, don't forget to export your video. Third day, blah blah blah, right? But in the app inbox, you just come out with one on the first day, and since it's going to be stuck there anyway forever. So scheduled messages we deleted, but triggered messages, if you think about it, like it means that we are trying to say that people who come into this funnel need to receive these messages in their inbox as well. And if they do, and we don't delete that, and if we have that for other people who are new, it's not going to be deleted for those people who are old. Okay, it's a bit hard to explain, but it doesn't matter that whether or not you get it. Just that for triggered messages, app inboxes will probably going to be stuck there forever, because we're not going to manually delete it and create it every single day. So again, just as an overview, lifecycle campaigns mean that it's running all the time. When people come in, so let's just imagine this. Okay, so this is the thing. When user first initiates trigger, then 1 day later they receive this, 7 days later, unless they do something, which is the export trigger, unless they export video, unless they come back and create a new video, unless they do all this, they are going to keep getting these messages. And it means that if I'm 7 days, I started app 7 days ago and I received this campaign is still running for the person who received the first app on the first day. So if app inbox is scheduled here, I'm not going to delete this entire campaign every day and start over anew, which means that the app inbox is going to be stuck for all users throughout the history of time. But okay, currently I think our system is that on the client side, which is the app side, on the front end, they will delete. We only have the last 10 messages or something, so that it doesn't look just too crowded. That's just a hack that we get through. It's actually a lean plum design flaw. Ideally, it should be able to have a remove message system that like should stay in the app inbox for 10 days, and if they don't, it's no longer relevant, especially for those sort of calendar type events. Pre-push messages, well, you don't really need to know that, but this it's just a type of message. So before they receive a confirmed dialogue, they can receive this, and they click OK. They are allowed to start we're allowed to start pushing to them. Resurrection. Okay, so this is a huge challenge. I would say that if you can create push copies that you can resurrect old users, that would be fantastic. Because currently, in terms of creative juice, if you just tell them to export a video and it's a helpful push, it's kind of transactional in a way, right? Just like you're just saying that you bought 2 flight tickets, your flight will be arriving 2:30. You don't have to be too creative about it to be useful to them. Thanks. Okay. But if you want to resurrect old users who have probably received 20 of your messages, that's where the challenge lies. And I've been rather boring about it. Oh my goodness. Ark. Okay, so this is not good. Okay, never mind. Okay, never mind. Let me play this. We've missed you. How we're making a little bit of this weekend. This is terrible. This is boring. Can we come up with something better? But I mean, it kind of works because it's going out to. It actually has 2% open, which is fairly high. Okay, in any case, resurrection again would be a splendid thing to have a series of messages come through. So if we find a copy works, 30 days we can send them this message, 35 days, or sorry, maybe 60 days, another month later, it can be a completely creative message. And then we have to start thinking of different levels of reach. So the more generic it is, which is this, it goes out to more users, which is more useful, but yet it's, in a way, you have to be very vanilla about it sometimes, because you don't know, like you can't have something creative with a rap lyric from Drake because not everybody will know that. So I think at the start it'll be actually, especially when you don't know the audience, it might be more effective for you to be looking at messages that are going out to a broader population, since we fall into the generic broad category, right? We're not, if you're not familiar with the demographic and what they like, you actually start looking at some of these. The basic principle behind what we're going to write is this. Okay, so one's an activation. So activation means that, and you can see the keywords sometimes I have here, and I'm going to add labels to these, and they all have different purposes. Activation means that a user comes to the app and they're not fully seen the value of Lomotive yet, right? I mean, if you've been using the app for 2 years and you've exported 20,000 videos, I would say that you are activated already. So it's a different thing. So maybe you've used the app and exported 20,000 videos and you haven't come back in a year. That would be something I would call resurrection. And so there are different sort of targets for that. Activation, I would say that if you haven't done something, and then you can see here like some of the key events that help them get activated is if they use search, if they have found a song, if they've used a tons of videos in their camera roll. Sometimes users use one video in the camera roll and add it to the music. I think one of our value propositions is to actually have a bunch of clips and be very, very easy to make montages with. So if they're just using it add songs, it could be, there's some potential in terms of like telling them to add more clips, but that's arguable anyway. Okay, then we get a little bit weird and creative with this, which turned out to be, and I could be wrong, I need to look at this again, turned out to be that if you tell them how long they spend in Lomotive, they are psychologically like, you've kind of made them think about using it more, in a way. Actually, it scares off some people, but so we like tell them about milestones, they've created how many videos and all that. So, and we do this by certain type of targeting. As you know, we know how long they spend the app. We know how many videos they created. So, so when Shane copies this for you, Shane, please also copy the context behind it. So it's the entire screenshot, and you can start understanding here. Please ask me if you don't know, but okay, this means, okay, localytics and past, ignore it. Okay, that's just to say, and that's a bit outdated already, especially when it's so long ago, it's more than a year ago. It's just that our old push notifications provider, I did not want to duplicate messages that I had for our old push notifications into here, so I just blocked these users. Export video is greater than 0, simply is a way of saying that they've exported more than one video, right? Greater than 0 is 1, so they have exported at least 1 or more. So we can have a bunch of this. We can change is greater than to is less than, is 1, 2, or 3, you know, stuff like that. So just use your imagination. Language is English. User total number of projects made is greater than 3. So the difference between export video and total number of projects made means on the profile attribute there's this bunch of projects, and you can actually count them. So we know that they have at least 3 videos. So we are not going to send this kind of milestone messages to someone who has not figured out that maybe they spent 3 hours like being completely lost and not creating a single project. This will not go out to them. And then of course minutes previously spent in the app is between these and days, which would trigger the milestone. So you just have to be a little bit more familiar with reading this. And also, so time scheduling. Most of our things go out in a optimal time, which means that the time that the Lean Plum system figures that they'll be most engaged in the app, which tends to be late at night for our teenage users, because they get bored and at night and they start checking their social media and they start getting inspired to create now. But you can also, obviously, if you have a message saying good morning, we can actually schedule it for a specific time as well, and we obviously have this scheduling thing to go out, to make things out on a specific day. There is one thing that I think is not ready yet, which is I think that messages cannot go out on a specific day of the week in a recurring manner. So for example, if I came up with a great copy for make a low motive for Women's Crush Wednesday, it should go out on Wednesday. I can't leave it here and then press a recurring button and have it figure out to send only these new users who came in for the week on the first Wednesday. So how we go around that currently is that we actually manually create a copy here, we target them, and then like duplicate this copy again for the next week. Again, I think that's a bit too much information for you at the moment. Don't need to know that. Just know that, what the different types of messages are, social prompts, okay, yeah. And then simply Android platform is very, very similar, except for the fact that there is no. Okay, if you are going to be really particular about it, and I hope you have time to be, because I have not sometimes. Android has different emojis than iOS, and sometimes it looks so different that some of the commonly used iOS thing that makes sense in your copy might not make sense in Android. So you just use I'm sure you know how to navigate Google and find in a way a converter or sort of a map to make sure that your Android thing looks quite like it. If I'm not wrong, it does not display on this platform here. It shows you the iOS version. Okay, besides that, okay. By the way, if you notice anything, okay, never mind about it. I think that's way too confusing. Okay, so that's my best friend. So again, like I said, we look at songs that are really interesting to users, to a broad base of users. Like a lot of our users find it very cool to make low motifs with their best friends in it, because of course they're young kids. And it's something that they want to say like, oh yeah, thank you best friend, bestie, and stuff like that. And so there are certain songs that we've identified that is very, very great for conversion, and it's going to look like this. So song recommendation, also this is how subtitles look. Yes, and then it goes to my main here. Okay, a tip on formatting. I think it's okay to go crazy with push notifications. Keep the tone similar. That means don't get all business-like one day and then like go all crazy with emojis the next day. We have typically this kind of tone already, like a cutesy. Basically, what your friends will message each other would be how we target users. And this especially is true for US-based users who tend to be predominantly extremely young. But if you talk about, like, let's say English-speaking users in Russia, and basically our Russian users and our Russian users are fairly like, a lot of them are mothers and all that. Women influencers of a certain age, I would say like maybe 20s and stuff like that. Your tone might not be super cutesy. But I think just again as a start, we'll just try to target, do the cutesy thing and really focus our building messages around English and US users for the start. So our tone will be kind of the same, but you can see that my tone gets a bit more generic when it goes out to non-US users. So like stuff like WCE, I think I'll write in the Excel sheet like what it targets. If you see English, you see US, you can see that my messages are skewed towards a certain thing. Like I can be more bold about recommending hip-hop songs all the time. But when you see stuff like new songs for your low motif, and it goes out to everybody, like English-speaking users in Japan, Brazil, and whatnot, I'm less I'm a lot less colorful in a way because it should not annoy a bunch of people. Like I wouldn't spam a bunch of emojis. I wouldn't get too crazy about certain stuff. Okay, so it's best practice. Okay, so another thing would be personalization and how it really affects the click-throughs. So we love last artist value thing. What we can do is we can save a user profile attribute. So like last artist. Last artist means what was that user last export. The last song exported, the artist name. So let's say I exported Celine Dion on, right? And then Celine Dion would therefore be in my okay, so how do I describe this? Okay, every user we're storing all sorts of data, right? So in user ID me, Sue, which maybe may or may not have my name, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, has last artist equals to Celine Dion. So I can actually target stuff like that, right? So obviously I wouldn't do Celine Dion because nobody would use Celine Dion in our app, and that would be a total waste of my time. But if I use someone like Drake or Nicki Minaj, so I might actually have in my targeting message where last artist equals to Nicki Minaj, because that's already fairly large population, maybe 10,000 or more. So if they last exported Nicki Minaj song, I can promote the latest Nicki Minaj song, right? Saying that like, have you used Queen? And I can make sure that last artist equal to Nicki Minaj but did not come back in the app for, that means time of last run. So that's a way of speaking. Time of last run is before X date, and the X date is the date of the release of the album. So I can basically target Nicki Minaj fans saying like, hey, come back to use Queen, because I know they can't possibly have used the song since it was not out when they last used Nicki Minaj. Okay, but here is a little bit special. Instead of going out to every, coming out 20,000 copies, 100 copies every time an artist releases a new album, we can try to work around and be a bit smart. We love last artists. It could be like Justin Bieber, right, for one user, and Drake for another. So we love Drake in your last motive. Use another, make it 2 for 2. So this was fairly good at getting users to come back actually after 14 days, which is quite a feat. So after 2 weeks, they will all receive this message. Another thing is that we can use your username in the thing. So, okay, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna create a new message. So just to be, you can actually create a lot. This basically insert user attribute, and there's a lot of things that we've stored. Don't ignore cohorts for now. Cohorts it's just a technical thing that so we can target all females. But do know that if you target all females, we don't actually save genders for all users, but just people who added in. So some of these might not be super useful. I would say that a few that you need to take note of is last artist. Last genre, again, not that many people might have used the genre, but we do use that. So for example, if we updated the love category, which is fairly popular, with new songs, like 5 new songs, we might actually, where last user attribute last genre equals to romance or whatever. So we'll do this targeting for you. You just need to know that this actually means when we say last genre, it means that they last use a playlist from this song, from this category, which means they're interested in that category. For example, it could be hip-hop, it could be rock, it could be instrumental, and we can always target these guys. And then also, for this insert value actually is different from targeting. So that was targeting, which is here. Insert value means I can actually say the word. So new insert category song, I could actually say, that means that if they're new love songs or new hip-hop songs, yeah. Insert value, user attribute. Okay, so one of the most common one would be last song and last artist. That would be helpful. Username is also helpful, but I think don't overuse it. I don't really see the point of just calling someone by their name all the time. So if username value, that means if they have this username here, if not, do something else. It's something that we can do. So these are the different ways of targeting. Again, you don't really need to know this because we will do this on your end, but just have that in mind that you can actually call a user, but if you have a username, so it's going to be like @Laurenzo23, make your motive today, and that tends to improve click-throughs. Let's see, okay. And of course, it doesn't need to be at the start of the messages, it can be anywhere in the messages. Like, we love you, space, comma, and then insert username, which is at Laurenzo. Okay, I think I'm starting to waffle a bit. So, okay. What we're going to do next would be for you to take a look at a few things. The easiest way to move forward would be for us to identify events and so for example, let's say if it's Michael Jackson's birthday, okay, never mind, that's a bit confusing. National Grandparents Day, that could be, oh no, that's over. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it's nothing interesting. Let's say, oh my goodness, they don't even have Halloween here. Okay, so something's really wrong with this spreadsheet, I think. Okay, so Halloween's coming up soon, quite not too soon. But so we will have this here. We will require you to write copies. Think of it like, you can even think of it in smart targeting. So in a very basic term, if we come out with things, I'll have it on a Google Sheet. I'll have a date scheduled. I'll have what event it is and how to drive it. But you can also try to break the rules if you want to, which is why I created columns around. On the right side, you can actually say, hey, you know, if someone used Michael Jackson's song, I think they should get this specific push message. Yeah, but don't go too crazy with that right now, because the idea is if you get too specific, we waste a lot of time doing that, and some of these, especially the scheduled pushes, are not scalable. So if we spend like one day getting the Halloween pushes really right, it's not going to help us in the next year. And also another thing is that it takes a lot of time to be right, of course. I tend not to get too specific about certain things if not many people have that quality. So for example, if not many people export Michael Jackson, and by not many I really mean like below 10,000 I don't really bother. In fact, 100,000 is a bit too much work for us already. So it probably should be around the 200,000 range. And calendar. Okay, so don't be too specific about it. I'll come out with a very on-the-nose push for you, and then followed by, and then you can use that to create variations of that for now. And then I think just feel free to have a comment section. There's going to be stuff that I would not have designed space for, so you might just have add notes like, so I think it would be cool if we use thriller songs or whatever for or have this copy if they did something like that, even though I have not considered it, maybe, or even, let me think. Okay, never mind. Alright, yeah, I think that's it for now. Okay, another thing that I'm going to do, or I'm going to ask you to do, is to screenshot all the send things, and so that you can rewrite push copies for it. Right now, just treat it as an exercise, because it might not really go out. I just want to see how you write first. And then if it's good, I think it's definitely going to go out. Just going to take some time. So also take your time to go in to look through the different push copies going out, see where the holes are. Again, if it doesn't have many sends, so this one has 1 million sends, I would say this is quite important. But if it has fewer sends and stuff like that, this is how you look at the data. So okay, so for the past month or so, like I told you, like push wasn't going out, so you just need to, so it's going to be a very biased set of data. But if you look at the past 3 months or more than that range, you get the sense of what the skew is for sends and some of this ad inbox and stuff like that. Yep. Okay, so this one is a huge pain for me. What was really effective is that after they use the app, we tell them something like that grill's a real crowd pleaser, something about the song, and make them try to come back to the app. However, these songs tend to get old fairly quickly, so I kind of need, it's a bit of two-pronged thing. It's not just a copy. We need to use our analytics to find out top songs sometimes I might dump you a top song, and you must try to think of a copy for it. And even though I might have a very generic suggestion of where this song should go, right? But as you look into it, you can also have your additional suggestions as well. So for example, if a song is something about love, or you can make it as a couple slow motive, you can make it as a best friend slow motive if you think about it. So I might have there like, deep link to, for people who had used the love song, but you might say that, it's more appropriate for best friends or whatever. So I'll leave you to figure that out. Okay, so 3 things. Rewrite copy based on what I push here. I will send screenshots via Slack. Shing will send screenshots via Slack using this. Just what her job would be is to just identify what has been most seen by the most eyeballs and what could potentially create the most impact. As an exercise, you should just go through them and get creative with all of them and see whether you can kind of try to improve the engagement as a result. And then finally, when you have extra time, feel free to do a couple of things. Media calendar, it's honestly a bit hard if you don't know the demographic well, but I think quite obviously you would know the key events. We should really have them here. You should know the key events, holidays. We can try to leverage them to get more engagement in certain countries, especially like US and our target demographics, Russia. And then you can also come in here and then look at what you can fix. This one is when you have additional time. Okay, so I think that's all for now.